The 2020 Atlanta United season is upon us, and there's been a lot of changes in the offseason. Can Atlanta make a run to an MLS Cup win? We preview it all next. What's going on, 5-Share fam? Welcome to our 2021 match preview special. I'm AJ, and I'm joined by Marc and Tanner. Before we get into it, become part of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube. So Atlanta United has a new head coach, no less than half a dozen additions to the roster, and expectations are soaring. But also, Atlanta United are the second highest market value as a club according to Transfer Market. So guys, what do you think of this valuation? Tanner.
I think it's interesting because it kind of puts into perspective league expectations based upon the value of the roster. You have three teams that are very distinctly ahead of everyone else as far as that valuation goes: LAFC, Atlanta United, and Inter Miami. Although there is an interesting point with Inter Miami because, as many people may know, there's an investigation into them and them not being roster compliant, possibly playing with 4 DPs. And rumors this past week have been that they're going to be trading Pellegrini, which is a player that they spent over $10 million. They spent over $10 million on. So, that would knock their roster down in terms of the value, but I'll buy a lot. After that, it's Toronto at 45. So, I think with Atlanta United, the value's possibly undervalued because you have a lot of young players that have come in that you really don't know how much they're worth. And players like Josef Martinez would have seen their value hurt based upon his injury. So I think looking at that, if you're a fan, you have to go, okay, we've got a really capable squad here in terms of talent, upside, and value. So you have to have those expectations to match with it. And I think that's what Atlanta United was built on. And I think that's what Atlanta United fans want to see the club get back to.
Yeah. Marc, could our valuations go up? Because yes, like Tanner mentioned, we have a lot of young guys that are vying for more playing time, and as these kind of 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, get more playing time, certainly, they could be viewed upon around the world as, someone that's more coveted.
Yeah, and even not even just players that need more playing time, but I look at somebody like a Miles Robinson or George Bello, like what is their value now? Because those are two players whose values I could see going up, especially Bello. Especially if Bello can make an appearance for the U.S. men's national team. I hear U.S. men's national team pundits themselves say, the left back position isn't really locked down. I think you have, Anthony Robinson at West Brom, I want to say. I think he's probably the leading candidate for that position right now, but why not Bello? He could certainly be in the mix. I also think, this roster valuation, it's interesting because this offseason, it was busy, similar to last offseason, and so there was a lot of, trepidation about going into last season because we made so many changes. But I think these changes, including the manager, maybe especially the manager, the fan base as a whole is a lot more comfortable with, right? These seem like way better thought out transfers. We're not as worried about position depth in certain areas. I mean, we are a little bit maybe in the defense, but especially with signing Franco, this has been this offseason and going into the season really feels like 2017. There's just a lot of, obviously we haven't seen these players game to game, but we know they're good, and we've already seen a glimpse, and it looks pretty good.
I think another thing that you have to touch on, and that's Ezequiel Barco, because he at times, minus the back pass that led to Guzan getting sent off, he looked a lot more confident than he had. And I think this is a really big season for Ezequiel Barco that, those valuations are also in a COVID market. So it's kind of interesting to take it with a grain of salt as far as that's concerned. But if Ezequiel Barco can start performing up to the level that he was signed for, to the level that will eventually get him that move that he wants to Europe, that valuation for that team can go up a lot more. And I think that comes into the head coach. And that's something, we're going to dig into further in the episode.
Right. Or maybe right now. So yes, the key transfers that have gone out, let's I think address that first, which I think there were a lot of people that were pretty sad that Franco Escobar was one of those players that was, but also Eric Remedi, Fernando Mesa, Jeff Lorenowitz does count as a transfer, or not a transfer out, but a player that retired. So, yeah, we no longer have him on the club. John Gallagher, our leading scorer from 2020, also was traded in the offseason. So, there's a lot of guys that, maybe played a large part of 2020, maybe for good or bad in that sense, that are no longer with the team. But transferring in a lot. And, Santiago Sosa, Alan Franco just recently, Franco Ibarra, Ronald Hernandez, Licha Lopez, and, to some lesser degrees, some other players like Mikey Ambrose and Alex DeJohn as depth. And then, of course, yeah, like you were saying, Gabriel Heinze, also as well as our head coach, definitely would be a key transfer in that respect of someone that has already, I think, bared a little fruit of seeing how much he's kind of changed the landscape of definitely a lot of the fans' expectations for the season. But let's get into what you guys think who the key transfer of this offseason was. So, Tanner.
I think for me, it's the manager. It starts with the manager. And I think Atlanta United, in a way, kind of admitted that they got it wrong with Frank de Boer. And they went back to their roots in terms of both stylistically, at least from the base of how they want to play, to where the manager's from and his ability to identify with what is a very large Latin core in this team. Atlanta United really, really respects Gabriel Heinze. I mean, a lot of them being Argentinian or from South America, they know his playing career. They're more familiar with him than Frank de Boer. And the way that they're running the training sessions, from everything that we have heard, has been very similar to Tata. The intensity's back. They have very specific instructions in terms of what they are told to do, which is the complete opposite of what Frank de Boer was. And I think, especially in Major League Soccer, if you have a manager that can instill a system and a belief into a set of players that helps make the collective better than the individual parts, that's what you need to have. And too often, I felt like under Frank de Boer, it was Josef just pulling something out to make the team better, moments here and there, but there was no collective. And I think, we've only had one match to watch, and it was a CONCACAF match, so that is what it is. You have to take that for being a CONCACAF match. But there was a belief, there was an attitude in the team, especially after the red card, and there was a clear idea of what they wanted to do. Was it perfect? No. Will they get better? Obviously, it takes time, but you can see that they understand what the manager wants from them. And I think that too often that did not happen under Frank de Boer, and that is very, very important in Major League Soccer because a good manager can take you a long way in any league, but I think especially in this league.
Mark.
I think Tanner made some really good points there, and I think the key player to how Atlanta United want to play this season is going to be Santiago Sosa. I think it's a cliche, but he's the engine. He's the key to the whole thing. He's the key to building attacks. He's the key to winning the ball back. He's the key to setting the tempo of the game, whether it is that they want to build out of the back or whether they want to go quickly. And so, especially the midfield, obviously, is going to be built around his skills. But I would expect him to play in pretty much any game that he's available and not absolutely exhausted, I think we've already seen a glimpse of it in a little bit in preseason and obviously in the first CCL match. And, so far he's as good as advertised. And it just... He doesn't play like Nagbe. I need to make that point clear when I say this. But the impact, the influence that he's going to have on games, it feels Nagbe-esque, and I feel like that was something we were definitely missing in 2020. And so, it's even though it's early on, I am very excited about what I've seen from Sosa, and I think he could have a big couple years and possibly get that move to Europe.
Yeah, no doubt. I think, both of you guys have made really, I think, astute points for sure. I mean, Heinze definitely is going to be such a factor in terms of all the guys that were brought in. He absolutely has, a hand not only in bringing them in, but also what they're going to do in his system. But I also agree with you, Mark, that Sosa is going to be so key, and you kind of saw it against Alajuelense a little bit, and how he was able to control the game for us. And that is going to be something that we've, not only missed so much in 2020, but is something that will just help us tremendously to be able to, gain back the type of play that we want to have. And also, I think you saw how quickly we were able to play, not only between the lines, because Sosa was able to find that open man much more quickly than we had in 2020. Like, that is something that, will, I think, impact a lot of 2021 for us. But, yeah, in terms of player, definitely, yeah, I went with Sosa as well. But
I mean, follow up with you on that, AJ. In global soccer, especially with how the game is developed, that position is so critical to almost every single team. I mean, if you don't have a solid person to anchor your midfield and to build out possession with, you're going to struggle. And Atlanta United, hasn't had that player obviously since Nagby left, but even so, he's a very unique player. And I think the more games will come, and as more footage of Atlanta United comes out, teams will approach things differently. But one thing that I really noted was that Atlanta United was able to play through the press effectively for the first time ever, really, without just hitting it long. And that was something that really impressed me with Sosa, was his composure and his calmness to be able to receive the ball under pressure and make the right decisions. And obviously, like you said, we'll see more of that as the season goes on. But he's the type of player that if you have someone consistent and solid at the base of that midfield, it provides you the platform to really build everything else off of. And it's going to be critical. And I'm excited to watch him because he looks like a really fun player.
Indeed. And so that gets us to our players to watch, the top players and up and coming. Of course, we already talked about Sosa, Franco, but Ezequiel Barco, we kind of alluded to as well, and Bello, of course. But Ibarra is another one of those that are up and coming that will have a large part to play in our transformed midfield that we have. And also Eric Lopez and Marcelino Moreno from last year. But of course, also, we have a very big piece that was missing for pretty much all of 2020 in Josef Martinez. The King returns, and who is your guys' player to watch in 2021? Mark.
We do this every year, but I think this is really the year. It has to be Barco. Like, Barco has to come into his own this season, because I just don't know what'll happen after, if it doesn't pan out this season, like, what's the next step? And so it's almost like I'm kind of willing it. I do think we've seen some solid early signs, but we've seen this before. So, like, he needs to show. He played as one of the wide men, one of the wingers in the versus Atl Utd. But I think if they had the full squad available, like Moreno back, I think we may see Barco in the middle, like in preseason. So I'm curious to see what position he eventually settles into. But once we figure that out, man, we've got to see the talent from him, because he's a key player, especially with Josef coming back. We can't expect him to be old Josef right away. And then other players are going to be new to the league. Like, Barco's been here. He's almost a veteran at this point. So I think we've got to see it from Barco now.
Been here 4 years. So, he's got to step up. It's 4 years now. It's time to show it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tanner. Yeah.
For me, I think that Mark really, he nails it as far as everyone's feelings towards Barco, because he is such a key player. And, he's a senior squad member. He's been here longer than most of the squad has. I mean, he's one of the few players remaining from that MLS Cup team, which sounds crazy, but it's true. So he's won things here, but he hasn't been a key player in those things. But for me, I think that Atlanta United only goes as far as a healthy Josef Martinez. If Josef Martinez can rediscover his form from pre-injury and he can start scoring goals, I think that he managed to score, 27 goals in that season under Frank de Boer, which is outrageous considering how poor we were in terms of getting him good service consistently. I think that it's clear that if the system clicks, he's going to get a lot of really good chances. He has very talented, creative players behind him at almost every single position. If he can rediscover that form in a team that I believe will be performing better, I I think Atlanta United can go a very, very long way. So for me, it's Josef Martinez. He's the heartbeat of this, sports in this city. He's the heartbeat of this team. If Josef Martinez is Josef Martinez as we know him, then this team's going to be very, very successful. And if he's not, they're still going to struggle to score goals, I think, at least to the degree that would help them win trophies.
Yeah, I mean, it's great shouts by both of you guys. I mean, that's definitely, Barco. He's got a lot to prove. He has that valuation that's is high, and he has obviously not quite lived up quite to it. But yes, Josef Martinez, I think coming back from the injury, for me, the player to watch for sure, because as Josef Martinez goes, I feel like this team will go, especially as a player that has carried, like you said, not only the team on his back, but the city on his back. And in terms of also championships for Atlanta, so championships on his back too. So it's definitely one of those things that, for Josef Martinez, if he can get even, I think, 80% of what he was in 2018, 2019, I think we are in for a treat. But yes, we do have to take it slowly, and that's why also, I kind of semi-shout out to Licha Lopez in this regard as a player to watch, because as much as he will spell Josef Martinez, you can see the quality that Licha Lopez brings on the pitch. He was connecting the lines, dropping in deep to collect the ball and spread it out to the wings for our guys against Atl Utd. And I think you'll just see a lot more of that as the season goes on, and hopefully he finds his scoring form as well. There's been a little bit of misses in preseason and in the match, but against Atl Utd. But I think he's a guy that not only has so much experience around the globe that he will impart that, I think, to our younger guys too when they come in. So speaking of the younger guys, of those players that we mentioned as well, maybe some of the other ones that we may not have actually spoke about, maybe like a Jackson Conway, a Machop Chol, maybe even a Rocos Rios Novo, because he's definitely trending at the moment. But who's you guys' young player to watch in 2021 that could break through with unexpected minutes? Tanner.
I think for me, not necessarily unexpected, but I'm really looking forward to hopefully seeing more of Eric Lopez. He was fun to watch in that second leg against Club America last year. Obviously, the match itself was a dead rubber, but him and Jackson Conway both looked quality. But I think Eric Lopez, he has that potential. Atlanta had paid a lot of money for him, and I'm curious to see where he fits into the attacking setup of this team and what he can do to add to it, because he clearly has flair, he has confidence, and he has a lot of talent. And I want to see what he can do, and hopefully he can spell some of the people that are ahead of him, because I don't think he's a starter yet. But he is young. I think he has a lot of upside, and I'm curious to see how he fits into this team and what he can bring.
Mark?
Yeah, it's hard. I know when we were first linked to Franco Ibarra, I didn't know what to expect, right? I was like, okay, obviously we need to rebolster our midfield. He's sort of a defensive midfield. He can get forward. How's he going to fit into the system? But I do think he'll actually play a lot, especially as we've seen these initial setups that Ente has the team in. I think with Ibarra and Sosa out there, you get two players whose skills complement each other really well, and they can do the bulk of the work in that midfield in terms of recovering the ball, setting tempo, just providing energy. And so, Ibarra's only 19, and so I'm curious to see, again, what his role is this season, but also like how he progresses as a player. There is an advantage to getting a player at this age, because you really get to mold them a little more. And so it'll be curious to see how, what kind of player he becomes as Ente works with him. I'm curious to see what kind of impact Ibarra has this season.
Yeah. I echo your sentiments, Mark, that, it's Ibarra for me in terms of like the young player to watch here. That, yes, Eric Lopez, I think, will play a good number of games, but I think Ibarra, for me, might play more, and maybe not unexpected minutes per se, but I think it is Ibarra, the way he is going to be utilized as that bulldog to Sosa's more libero. It will be that that sense that Ibarra is gonna be that guy that's gonna start that press from midfield. He's going to be tracking the guy with the ball every single time and doing that dirty work. And he might be a little raw, but I think he will be a guy that's if he can keep the yellow cards down, which apparently has been a problem when he was in South America. I think he can really, make something of a more dynamic midfield than we had previously in the last couple of years. I think we were missing something that just was more athletic, something that can, really unsettle teams with the pace and that pressing that he can really achieve for us for what we need to do in Heinze's system. So, speaking of Heinze, let's talk about his, what he brings to this team, and then kind of what are the expectations of him for this season, though. So, Tanner, what are you looking forward to what Heinze can bring?
Heinze, he brings a lot to Atlanta United, and I'm really excited about a lot of things with him. We did a video when the signing was first announced that you should definitely check out. Link somewhere. AJ will take care of that. But that digs a bit more into the tactical details and how he plays and some of his history and everything. But for me, I think that what you could see in the first match was he has a very defined and clear style of play that he wants the players to execute on the pitch. That was very much lacking under Frank de Boer, where a lot of the times the players did not have very specific instructions about how they were supposed to move, what combinations that they had. They were more left that to their own devices. Heinze is not like that. He's very structured. He knows exactly what he wants his players to do, very similar to a Marcelo Bielsa, very similar to a Pep Guardiola, where they have these planned, choreographed exchanges of players switching in and out of positions. It's really difficult to defend against if the players know what they're doing. And that will take some time. It doesn't happen overnight. Games will have to get played. But he's the type of manager that if he does what I think he can do, he'll be here for a few years, and then he's going to be getting a job in Europe because he's a very talented manager. He knows what he wants. His players love him, and he's fiery. And I do have some personal issues with him, given that he tried to move from Manchester United to Liverpool, but that happened 15 years ago, so we'll let that go. But I'm excited for him. I genuinely, he was a name that I remember mentioning last year when De Boer first, we talked about him leaving. I mean, I've been really high on him as a manager, and I'm excited for him. And I think Atlanta United fans have a reason to be giddy and excited for this season again, because the soccer is going to be exciting. Even if Atlanta United doesn't end up winning MLS Cup, we're not going to be boring. It's not going to be the paint dry football that we saw under Frank de Boer. So I'm excited for him, and I think Atlanta United fans should be as well.
Yeah. To answer your question, yes. I think we're one of the first to mention Heinze as one of the candidates that we should explore. He was definitely my pick when we were all wondering are we gonna sign a head coach then? And we all gave our picks. He was definitely mine as well. But Mark, what are you looking forward to what Heinze can bring?
As I mentioned before, just the feel of 2017, it really feels like a rebirth. Obviously, there's some holdovers, players from previous years, so it's not quite, starting from scratch. But yeah, I just think just like that aggressive pressing and counter pressing, the more vertical play. I think we were definitely missing that, and it just the camaraderie, I think, as well with the manager. We really saw that with Tata. There was the relationship was an important part of the whole process, and with Frank de Boer, it felt a little cold. And so I think with Heinze, we'll see how he is as a manager as well, but all the signs, I think, as early as it is, all the signs are positive in all of those regards.
Yeah. And for me, I think what I'm looking forward to most as well is that Heinze, he was able to bring Les Sarsfield from pretty much relegation fodder into a team that made it into the Copa Sudamericana, and he made maybe somewhat average players into something better than they were. And he's never had a striker like Josef Martinez in his squad ever. And that's going to be something I think that will be so useful. I think even Atl Lopez maybe for him. And also I think the plethora of striker options that he does have. He has... someone that can maybe, get in behind as well off the bench in Eric Lopez. And then you have someone that can play big in Jackson Conway and maybe even Machop Chol if he, decides to deploy him there. And so he's got options. I'm really looking forward to what he can, I think fashion the team into doing, because what Tanner was talking about exactly of players knowing where they need to be, the positional sense. These players will be pretty much, yelled at into being in the right position. Otherwise, they're not playing. And so that's, I think, super key in getting us into, the right positions to score goals and really wow the fans. And that's, I think, really what I'm looking most forward to. But let's get into, though, the competitions that we're in. We're in quite a few, and that's if we can make one of them. But we'll get into that in a second. But CCL, of course, we're already in, and we're playing. We're, in terms of MLS Cup, that's, one of the goals. Of course, maybe if not the goal. But also U.S. Open Cup, that's if we have a good enough record in one of the 8 places that can make the U.S. Open Cup early rounds. And so, we have to do our business quickly and early in the league. And also the Supporter Shield, of course, which might be dwindling in its importance year after year. But, guys, in terms of importance, should we just, go off together in terms of what we think is the most, top 1, 2, 3, 4? Shall we?
We're probably all pretty much in agreement in terms of how these things shape out. For me personally, I think that CONCACAF Champions League looks really tasty for me this year. When you look at the bracket, the only Mexican side on Atlanta's side of the bracket is Club America. They are currently in second place in Liga MX, so they're a really solid outfit. There's obviously a lot of history between Atlanta United and them. That's still 2 rounds away, if Atlanta United was to get there. I think Atlanta United is going to win this tie. They're going to get into the next round where they will be playing either Saprissa or Philadelphia Union. If you're an Atlanta United fan, you have to look at that and say, we fancy our chances to get to the first semifinal in club history. And then if you do that, you'll have the game, you'll have more and more games being played, so the team will be more familiar with it. Josef will be closer back to match fitness. So the best chance Atlanta United has had to win CONCACAF Champions League. And I think this is one of the best chances an MLS side has had. LAFC came very close last year. They took the lead on Tigres in the final, but they weren't able to see it out. I'm kind of glad they didn't personally, because I'd like to see Atlanta United be the first MLS club to win this version of it. But after that, it's MLS Cup and then everything else. I mean, if you get into the U.S. Open Cup, which I think Atlanta will, if you can win it, great, but it just doesn't mean that much to me personally. And Supporter Shield, I don't even know if we're going to end up keeping it around much longer, because if you only play 2 teams from the other conference, how can you honestly award a trophy to a team, that hasn't played the same schedule as everyone else? And that will be my position even if Atlanta United stormed the Supporters Shield this year. I'll be like, great, how do we really know? Because no one played the same schedule, so who really gives a damn?
Yeah. Mark?
So obviously I would love a deep Champions League run. I think it would be dope to see the Atlanta United make into the later rounds, a semifinal versus like a Club America or whatever would be cool. But there's always it always comes back to me, for me, it's a knockout competition, right? And anything can happen, you know what I mean? So we may not even get past the next round, something funky could happen versus Union or Saprissa or whatever. For me, what I'm really curious to see this team navigate a regular season. Obviously, it's going to be a weird schedule. We play a few teams 3 times, but we also play Columbus twice. We play LAFC. We play Seattle. So some difficult opponents in there. And as I've been saying, this is a rebirth for us. I'm really curious to see this team gel and the type of football that we play. And come playoff time, I mean, for me, it's always, MLS Cup is always going to be king, just because like we understand it. It's like you have your regular season, and then at that, even the playoffs are usually pretty interesting because you're left with the best of the best. That's like, I think then you get like a proper competition within MLS of like the best teams. And so, yeah, I mean, like I could see a situation which Atlanta like ramp up and make a postseason run this year, And so to me, I think that's what gets me most excited. It's just like seeing that whole process with the reward at the end.
Yeah. For me, yeah. CCL, of course, yeah. Echo your guys' sentiments if we can do it. Hopefully, this this special does not become obsolete very, very quickly, and that we actually advance in this next round. But I think also U.S. Open Cup, interesting that it's not so open, so it's not going to be, I think, really living up to its moniker either. So yeah, MLS Cup definitely is up there. I think for me, it's CCL, it's MLS Cup, it's US Open Cup, and then Supporter Shields. But if we did win the Supporter Shields, I mean, I'm not gonna say no to trophies in our trophy cabinet. So yeah, would we be smug? Probably, if we won it. I mean, yeah, it's just you add it to the trophy case. Hell yeah, you do, and hell yeah, you gloat about it, because then we almost complete at least the domestic treble, and I guess in that sense. So at least over the years. But I have to ask you guys though.
Okay.
In terms of the season, what place in the Eastern Conference do you guys think will place? So, Tanner.
To be quite honest with you, I mean, I think Marc made a really good point in terms of like wanting to see how this team develops, because how they do, I think it really also comes down to what you define success as. What is a successful season in terms of finishing in the Eastern Conference and trophy wise? For me, if Atlanta United, say, finishes mid in the Eastern Conference but manages to win the Champions League, if we win the Champions League, it's a successful season for me. But I honestly think after one game, and this is stupid, and I might sit here and look like an absolute idiot, but I think Atlanta United is going to finish first or second in the East. I couldn't tell you which one, but I have a very good feeling about this team. I have a very good feeling about the manager, and I think that they're really going to paste a bunch of teams this year. I think Columbus is going to be the biggest challenger in the Eastern Conference. But I think Atlanta United has the quality. I think they have the manager, and I think they're going to have the style to really put it on this year and make it a very solid campaign. So I'm going to say first or second. I don't know which. Maybe that's a cop-out, but they're going to be right there at the top, like they kind of have been in the past.
Marc?
I'm going to be a little more cautiously optimistic. I could see us finishing second. I'm going to say third, though. I think that Columbus will probably be the best team in the East. And then, I think there could be one other team who's up there in the mix in terms of first in the East. So, maybe a Philadelphia, maybe a Toronto. But at the same time, I think that most of the teams in the East have flaws. And I think that Atlanta United should be up there, at least in the mix of Supporters Shield, honestly, and definitely first seed in the East. I think we have a better roster right now than most of the other teams in the league. So I definitely expect Atlanta United to make the playoffs comfortably and be pushing for a top spot.
Yeah. So I'm reading that you're saying you actually haven't said, huh? Which place? Which place in the Eastern Conference then?
Me? I said third.
Third? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I think it's somewhere in between that for me. I think it's second or third, possibly even fourth, depending on. I think we have some kinks to work out. It is definitely encouraging the returns early, but I think Philadelphia is just a little bit more in tune with probably each other in terms of a roster. Columbus as well. Arguably Orlando City as well in that regard, but yeah, we'll have to see what.
If DK doesn't come back though,
we'll have to see what their striker situation is, and so
playing for them again, there's no chance.
Yeah,
right.
If they're smart and if they, in terms of wanting to move the needle in MLS, they would sell him. But Let's move on from that into the key games very quickly. Which game are you looking most forward to, guys? So, Tanner.
For me, it's that season opener against Orlando City. Orlando City for the first time really flexed their muscle on Atlanta United last year and really showed where Atlanta United was and where they were. And I think that, they've made some interesting signings. I have no idea what Alexander Pato is going to do for them. I do not think DK will ever play for them again. If he's smart, he will not play for them again because he's clearly shown that he is good enough to play in Europe and he does not need to be playing in MLS. But I want to see where Atlanta United is. You're going to have 2 competitive warm-up games in hand when you go down to Orlando in a week's time. And I want to see what they have, and I want to see them set the record straight in terms of who's better. Because let's be honest, go on Twitter. Orlando City fans have been really chirping off. They had one decent season, made an MLS Cup playoffs, and they think that that's a trophy. They want a cookie for it, and they think all of a sudden they're the big dogs on campus and they're a better club than Atlanta United. And it's just like, well, you don't get jack shit for making the playoffs, and you've only won a preseason tournament that was held in your own stadium. So, I'd like for Atlanta to show Orlando City in those games who the real club is, who the club that has history, who the club is that's won things. And it's interesting because it's starting to become a bit of an actual rivalry. I'd like for Atlanta United to kind of quell that talk a little bit and make them know who the actual fathers are in this situation.
Hell yes. Also, there's been a lot of slagging off Josef Martinez from Orlando City fans as well. That, it's a lot of nonsense. They're saying his preseason was poor or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, if we're gonna judge how they're gonna do in a season from their preseason, then I think we could slag off a whole host of all sorts of different players. Mark, who are you looking forward to playing as your key game?
For me, it's key games, the 2 games versus Columbus, and they play them actually at the end of July and the beginning of August, so within a 4-week stretch of each other. And they're the champions, as I mentioned before, I expect them to be the best team in the East. I expect them to be very good again. And I think that at that point, it'll be in the middle of the season. So Atlanta United should at that point have found some sort of rhythm. They should have better chemistry. And so I think those matchups will be just intriguing from a neutral standpoint, and certainly from an Atlanta United fan standpoint. Like, we're talking about this team making an MLS Cup run, possibly winning it all this year. Definitely want to see how they do against the defending champions.
I see all you guys saying what you're saying. I like it. I think LAFC is still the litmus test. It's definitely, they made that Champions League final. They're good. They're absolutely, I think, MLS-wise, they probably have the best shout of, in terms of, I think, striking fear in most of every one of their opponents. And, Carlos Vela can do some ridiculous things that has been, for a couple years now, been striking fear into defenders' hearts. So for me, LAFC is going to be a whole lot of fun. But let's move on into the odds that BetMGM have of MLS clubs winning the Cup. And, Atlanta is at 4.8% in preseason, at least anyway. This is, of course, before the season is played. And we're tied with Portland. We're just under Orlando City, LOL. And LAFC have the best odds of winning. And so, kind of along with what we were just saying, it's definitely very, very interesting. Do you guys have some quick thoughts on, what our odds are, and if you feel like they're accurate? Tanner.
I think if you're a betting person, you should put money on Atlanta United. They're plus 2,000. The idea that they are 4 times less likely to win MLS Cup compared to LAFC, I think, is outrageous. I think that having teams like Orlando, like SKC, like NYCFC, who haven't really been doing much above them, is really, really interesting. I'm not really going to be too offended by these because I don't think that the people making these odds are really clued into what's going on. I think if they were Atlanta United, I don't think they have the best odds, but I think they should be higher than 9th. I think it's tasty. If you're that kind of individual and that's what gets you going, I would be putting some money on Atlanta United because those are very, very tasty odds as far as I'm concerned.
Mark, any thoughts?
No, yeah, I mean, like, even the teams that have like a little bit higher odds than Atlanta United, Red Bulls, Inter Miami, like, how are they close to Atlanta United right now? I don't see it. Certainly not Inter. And then, yeah, NYCFC having twice as good a chance of winning MLS Cup as Atlanta United, even though their playoff record is horrendous historically, and like once again coming into the season with the coach being unhappy and whatever. So yeah, I mean, like, these,
Oh,
you know,
games in Red.
these odds will change. Let's put it that way. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Uh-huh.
we play them at Red Bull Arena. Like, it's they. I could do a whole rant about NYCFC, but they're definitely not winning MLS Cup. That's all I'm gonna say here.
Let's not have those be famous last words on MLS Cup. That would be. I mean, there are worse teams in terms of not wanting to win MLS Cup for sure. But anyway, so guys, let's get into our predictions for the season. Let's pick a CCL winner since we are still in the competition. So, guys, quickly, who's your CCL winner? Tanner.
I picked Club America before we started recording, and then I looked at it and I realized that the final's not until October, and that leaves a lot of time for things to change because that's not going to be the same team that's playing right now. It's not going to be the same team that's, second in the Clausura. So I don't want to go out and like say an MLS team because it's never happened before, but I said earlier in the episode that I think it's the best chance an MLS team has ever had to win it. So I'm actually changing from what I originally put down on here, and I'm going to say Columbus Crew because they look really, really good in their first game. I think they're a team that's going to have it together most of the season. I don't see that being a team that will be affected by transfers during the season. And I think they have a really good chance at it. And I think Columbus Crew are going to win the Champions League.
Oh, Mark.
I'm gonna go with my second team, my Liga MX team, Monterrey. They've won it recently, and I don't know. I just feel like they'll pull it off again. They still have a pretty decent roster. It's Funes Mori, so I mean, they might do it.
Yeah. I'm gonna stick my neck out here. Tanner was maybe a little too reticent to say it, but I think Atlanta United can win the Champions League. Let's go.
Yes, AJ. My guy.
Let's
My
go.
Guy. I want
Okay.
it so bad, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. And I think Columbus are a really good team, but you'll see why in a second.
Indeed. It is definitely though. It's not going to be an easy route whatsoever in terms of if there's a Liga MX side on the other side of that. If we can get through our side into the final, but yes, our side of it is theoretically a bit easier than we've had it in the past. So, I think what's that?
To build up, if Atlanta United is in a final and that final is in October at the Benz, which will probably be a full packed house, any damn thing can happen. Anything can happen.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So let's pick our Golden Boot winner. Who do you guys have? Tanner.
Vela.
Fair, yeah. I mean, he has been. It's it's a safe shout for sure, but a wise shout indeed. But Mark, who do you got?
So, like, to me, when I look at LA, I feel like they have multiple goal scorers at this point, especially since Rossi won Golden Boot last year. I think with Atlanta United, the scoring is going to be a little more spread out as well. But I think Raul Ruiz is their main guy. You know what I mean? Like, Seattle doesn't traditionally have a lot of goal scorers anyway. And so I think that he'll have the opportunities, and, like, he's that player for his team. So,
yep. That's a very interesting shout. Yeah, I also have Carlos Vela as well. It's hard to go against that. I don't see Diogo Rossi doing that for as the length of a season that we will have this time. I think it's just gonna be a little bit different. I think Vela has that pedigree. Joseph's still getting back from the injury. Otherwise, he'd be my absolute bet every single time in a healthy season. But unfortunately, that is not the case. But let's get into finally, the MLS Cup winner then. Tanner, who do you got?
Atlanta United. I think we're going to win it. I really do. I think that this team is a lot better than people think they are. I think that this team is going to get better if they can stay healthy. I think this team is going to get better as the season goes on, as players get more familiar with the system, with each other, as Josef gets healthier. I think that Ezequiel Barco is going to finally have the season we think he's going to have. And I think that this roster is really well built from top to bottom. I think the addition of Alan Franco is fantastic. I think that at the back, you've got two of the best center backs in the league, possibly the best pairing in the league. If they can really form a good partnership there, you've solved your problem in midfield with Santiago Sosa. I think that this team has everything that it takes to win MLS Cup. But for me, it comes down to the manager. I think that Heinze is the best manager in the league. I think he's going to show that. I think his system is going to really make it very difficult on a lot of teams to play against Atlanta United this year. Will it be risky? Yes. Will there be times where Atlanta United gets beat over the top? Yes. And that's going to be their biggest, obstacle in terms of winning MLS Cup will be the fact that because this team is going to be so aggressive, that there is always the chance to get caught on the counter. I mean, look at what happened with Manchester City and Leeds this past weekend. Leeds had 2 shots, both went in. City had 29 and lost. That can happen with this system. That's soccer. That's football. But I really think this team is good, and I believe in them, and I think they're going to do it.
Mark?
So I think Atl United will be pretty good, and I could see Atl United making it even all as far as the semis, but I just think that Columbus really good. They were really good last season, obviously, but there's still room for improvement for them. They did add to their roster a little bit, including Kevin Molino. And I think that Columbus will probably be a little bit too much, especially if it came down to like Atlanta and Columbus in the semifinal. I think that this season is probably one season too soon for Atlanta United in terms of going all the way. So Columbus for me.
Oh, you got him as a repeat. My God. That's one of the first in a while for sure.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, guys, are we Columbus Crew Fan TV? I mean, you guys have them winning the Champions League. You got them winning MLS Cup. I mean...
I think that they are good enough to win Champions League.
Yeah.
I'm bullish, but who do you got, AJ?
Yeah, and that's the thing. So I think depth for us is massive in this season. I think we have really loaded up in multiple positions, and our defense looks really stout now with the addition of Alan Franco. And so, like you said, we have probably the best center back pairing in the league. And then when you add in Anton Walks, you have the potential of George Campbell as well. We have some depth there that, especially, with what you're talking about, the balls over the top, we have, according to at least what the scouting reports are on Alan Franco, but Robinson is definitely one of the best guys to handle those one-on-ones against those pacey players. He's very pacey himself. Alan Franco is another guy that can also do that job and make sure that they cannot be dribbled past. And so I think, we'll be on the front foot a lot. And, if we're home, if we can, get a high enough seed in the Eastern Conference, we're taking it home, baby. It is MLS Cup number 2 for Atlanta United for me. And, hopefully you guys think that too, but let us know in the comments below what your predictions are for the season, everything that we talked about. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think we're just absolutely crazy? Let us know in the comments below. But guys, hope you guys enjoyed the season preview special. And for Tanner, for Mark, I'm AJ. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and we will see you in 2021. Thank you so much for watching.